I'm Amanda Silver.
And I'm Alex Howard.
And this is Dirty Laundry.
Italian.
Yeah, they're like nice.
Do you know what I had two? Did you ever envision your life? Like I thought,
Oh, honey.
I'm either going to marry a black
that road.
man and have the most beautiful mixed children, or I'm going to marry an Italian and spend my summers abroad in Italy, just sipping wine in piazzas and eating, gelato
In their
the
family
hot summer
home
days.
in Italy?
Yeah, that was my.
That would be nice. I
Neither of
wouldn't
those
mind that.
things came true.
Okay.
But I'm very happy. And my children are beautiful. Here you go. So, it could be worse.
Your life never turns out the way you expected it.
That is,
Our job has
truth.
taught us anything.
Well, and I think that's half the battle is we imagine what our life is going to be like.
Yep.
Then it doesn't turn out. And then you're not just battling whatever your sort of situation or your outcome is. You're battling against what you thought it was going to be.
Like you've disappointed your previous self, your younger self, because you didn't create the life that you had envisioned.
Yeah. Meanwhile, super happy.
Maybe you'll be better.
I mean, listen, I would still love to go to Italy every summer.
Wouldn't.
Who wouldn't? But instead, we live in Toronto and we send our kids to camp.
We send our kids to camp, and mine...
You're in the throes of it.
Mine is leaving for 4 weeks, and she's so excited. She's counting down the days.
Wow.
But it is a real to-do. Getting them ready for sleepover camp for a month.
Yeah, they need a lot of stuff.
I mean, you saw the stuff yesterday.
I was immersed in the stuff.
You were like swimming in
Well,
all
let's
of
first
this
talk about
stuff.
the amount of hair ties and scrunchies one sweet little girl needs for a month.
Well, just with the package, so I threw them all in, but like the list, like in every day, I feel like I could keep going, and it's like I can't.
Are you worried that what happens if she's without?
Well,
because I think she'll be
it's more
fine.
like there's certain things, like she's at an age where like they need the certain thing. Like they need like the colorful mat, or like the toolbox.
What's the colorful mat?
Like a mat near their bed. And now they're like they're decorating.
What do you mean? I need
their
more.
bunks. Like their bunks. Like they have like a mat, like a foot mat, like next to their bed where they put their slippers.
They bring that to camp.
Yes, it's hers is like tie-dye, and then they have like all these little pillows that they put on their bed, and they put lights around their bunk bed. Yeah, they're like,
oh my God, I sent my kids with a pillow and a sleeping bag and best wishes.
Sleeping bag is for the camping trip. She's got sheets, she's got a comforter.
Oh,
for a month.
Okay,
fair. She needs a bed, like a proper, like kids sleep in a sleeping bag for a month.
I can appreciate the sheets, but the mat seems
all the
a bit
little
much.
things.
Okay,
no, because it's cold and dirty the floor. So they like put your little slippers down.
They're really moving in.
This
is like a precursor to their residence.
You know what it is? It's like a dorm.
Yeah.
It's a dorm for little kids. And they get
really
so
cute.
excited. And that's what makes them so excited about the whole experience. It's like setting up their little area. Or you're top bunk or bottom bunk. But it's a lot of work to get all the stuff that they need.
It's really sweet. Do you know what this reminds me of? Do you remember the Gilmore Girls episode
when
Gilmore
Girls last night?
Of course, who like every single
my
night of my
therapy.
life. When Rory moves into Yale, and then Lorelai sees what all the other kids have, like a mini fridge and like a carpet, and she's like, I'm like the derelict parent, and you're the already organized one. So when my kids move to res, you're gonna move them.
I'm gonna move them in. They will
You're gonna have their
fridge,
formats and all of the things.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a perfect segue into today's episode.
Organization.
We are
having the experts
styling, decluttering.
Yes.
I'm excited for this one.
It really, I really think it's like the new wave of like wellness. It's like taking care of your home, like just organizing yourself really helps your mental health.
And purging, like getting rid of stuff.
Oh my God.
We deal with so many families in transition.
People usually are getting rid of spouses, but here they're getting rid of stuff.
I can't follow that up with
have
any.
the same feeling,
You are the queen of the one-liner mic drop. On that note, let's segue to our guest.
Welcome, Danielle and Amalia. Okay, so welcome, Danielle and Amalia, to Dirty Laundry. We're so happy to have you here from Perfectly Put, the home organizing experts. Why don't we start with who you are, how you got into this work, and what you do?
So Danielle and I have actually known each other since kindergarten. And our lifestyles at home were very much similar. Like our parents, like both moms, they were really good with the cleaning and the organizing and Italians and keeping things in order. So that's kind of how we grew up as well. And we often would find ourselves going to our friend's house, and instead of playing, we'd be like, "Oh, you want to organize your closets.
So cute.
So we lost a lot of friends. And then we remained friends. And then fast forward, how many years?
Almost like 35.
Yeah.
So you don't have to count if you don't want to.
I was kind of doing my own thing. I have a background in education and social work, and she was doing her own thing.
I mean, I graduated with the theater major, so very different than this.
The weirdest.
Yeah.
Sorry, if
You
we
guys-
could just pause you.
Yeah.
I have a
us.
background in theater.
Okay, there you
I have a
go.
She was
background in
an educator.
education.
you go.
That's so
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. See?
Yeah.
Anyways, as you were.
And you clicked.
We're not making this about ourselves, as we always do.
Yeah. So, and then, I had kids and I wanted to kind of do something that was creative and still allowed me to be home with them.
Yeah.
And so we kind of started talking about having an organizing company, and then we just kind of dove in.
Yeah. So we were still able to kind of like maintain that bond that we created, 30 plus years ago, and now bringing it into a passion in our adulthood. So we're just really, really happy and fortunate that we can do this, and it allows us to have the flexibility, but also connect with amazing clients, and we're making changes in their lives. And that's really what we wanted to do. That was the most important to us.
And what is your typical clientele? Like, who is your dream client?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So our typical dream client is someone that is looking to really make some life changes. We don't really want to just go into a space and make it look picture perfect. I mean, we do that, but we also create systems for our clients that are easily maintainable for an individual that's living on their own or with a partner or an entire family. So our main focus is building functional, affordable, and sustainable systems for families that they can use forever that will change their lives.
And I know how important it is for my own life, like how cleansing it is. So there's nothing that makes, I think, both of us so excited as at the end when we're done and seeing how refreshed our clients are, because that's a feeling that I get at home. And it's something that I inspire others to do too. And it's not easy. And that's why we have a business. And that, I think, is what makes us the happiest, is at the end of the day, like building those professional relationships, but being able to walk away and see, how happy they are.
Yeah.
Because
I feel better after I clean a closet. Like I really do. You just feel lighter.
Right.
You feel more organized. You
And
just
like
feel,
such a sense of accomplishment when you can step back and be like, oh my God, the before versus after.
It's really
the
a form
best.
of self-care. And I think that it's really gaining in popularity and recognition that like organizing your home really helps you organize your life.
Yeah.
And I think the misconception sometimes is that people are afraid to take that step because they think, do I have to get rid of everything?
Right.
And like, do I have to live this way? We don't have one way of organizing, right? We go to our, like, it's based on our clients' needs.
Yeah, we
so
cater.
it's so different from client to client. So that's why it's important for us to build that relationship with our clients. It's not, okay, we're here, we have everything that we know what we're going to do. No, we're doing it together. We're listening. Like, what is it that how do you see yourself living in this space?
Right. So it's a lot of taking into account the way that they function in their
Absolutely.
space and then just really improving upon it.
100%.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's why we offer that initial discovery call so that we can understand the client's needs before we even step foot in their house.
Right.
Because when we do go into their home, it's a space that, they're vulnerable, right? So we want to make sure that we're going into a space with already some background information on how they live, so that when we do get into the space, we can kind of just have a better understanding and assess, and then put a plan in place on how we're going to tackle the situation.
I can imagine it's a very emotional thing for a lot of people. And you're coming into different situations. Like you might have, like we were just talking before the show, Amalia and I, about how like my basement's full of toys that my kids don't even touch. And like I got to deal with that. But then, and there's not as much emotions, I don't think, attached to those toys. But I would imagine that you come into a situation where you might have like, oh my God, it's my grandmother's furniture, or it's my ex-husband's things, or there's probably a lot of different emotions that you deal with.
There is. And, it may not be emotional for you, but it might be emotional for your children.
Right.
So it's really important to take that into account too. So for myself, I like, there's some things that I do without my children because they don't have that capacity to, really separate things. But there's a lot of things that I do involve them with, right? Because it is their stuff.
Yeah.
So I think also it's not so much decluttering is important, but reorganizing things, right? Creating spaces for them. So it does become more usable,
Yeah.
right? So my kids might not be playing with their toys, but it might feel overwhelming for them. But if I create that
Yes.
space for them and they know where things are, they'll start to play,
play.
you know? And I
Yeah.
think and it's no different than our own closets. If I reorganize my closet, I actually do like that dress.
Yeah.
Where did those jeans come from?
Right.
You start to like things more.
Yeah.
And you use them more.
Yeah.
I
So,
feel like,
Yeah.
kids are so on their tablets and they walk by, like my kids will walk by their toys and not even see them.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're so used to them being there. But I think if they were more organized, it would be more appealing to them.
Mhm.
Yeah, and getting them involved. Like we are very big on like labels and like labeling, you know, like let's say a playroom, for example.
Right.
We're very big on that so that the kids can then be involved with putting their own stuff away, as opposed to just, once they can read, obviously, but like, you know, for the older children, it makes a world of a difference when those systems are in place, because then it's not one person always picking up the toys and putting things away. It becomes a family practice.
And it's not overwhelming. When things have a space, that cleanup doesn't feel like a cleanup, right? And there's different ways you can label. You can label through pictures. You can label through, and words, whatever it is. But it's whatever works for your family, right? And it shouldn't feel overwhelming. And I think sometimes people, because they're so used to living one way, they almost feel like if I'm organized, it's going to be more work for me.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
We get that all the time.
Yeah.
Well, then what
and
about
it shouldn't be.
No, but you're right, because I have organized chaos, I like to call it.
Yeah.
But I know where everything
Yes.
is.
Right.
And then every once in a while, I'm like, okay, enough is enough. I got to get my shit together. I'm going to reorganize. I can't find a thing ever.
Right.
Because there was this really clever spot
Yeah.
for safekeeping
Yeah.
or whatever.
It made sense in
Where
your
was
mind.
it? Yes.
Yeah.
In my mind that
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
So tell us about these systems. Like, is
Right.
this something that you can use regardless of the client, or is it really tailored to each specific family, or let's say?
It's 100% tailored, because some people don't like labels. Some people don't like decanting their entire pantry.
Yes.
Right.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
who does that?
Yeah.
The cereal-
I mean, some people
yeah,
do.
like the cereal boxes. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have the
Yeah.
time to take the cereal
and that's
out.
okay. And I think
Yeah.
that's sometimes people like over organization,
Right.
which is great. And some people like it in the middle, right? So it really depends on what makes you feel your best. And I think that's what's the most important. Like for her and I have very two different organizing
beliefs.
like but
Like
not
when it-
with
when
our
it-
clients
when it comes to-
at our own
Yes,
homes.
Okay, tell us about
right.
that. I'm
Yeah.
curious. I want to come behind the curtain.
So she's an over organizer.
Okay.
You decant the pantry.
I do decant the pantry. I have labels. I like drawer dividers. I like things compartmentalized. Once again, it just allows me to put things back in their place, and there's no guessing. Like I don't have to guess. Like where does this go today, right? Whereas, you have a family of four,
Right.
so
But like, for example, in one basket in my pantry, it's school snacks.
Right.
Now that basket can also be divided into different snacks, but that's not my style for my home.
Right.
So again, it just really depends on the client, right?
So are they coming to you and saying, here's my style. I'm very, let's say, type A, to use a cliche. I want drawer dividers. I want a decant. I want everything. Or it's like, I just need to not have everything I own on the floor. So, or are you trying to come in and say, actually, we are the experts. We know what's best within the sort of, let's say, personality traits or the way your family functions. We can just elevate that.
Right.
Like, at what point are you dictating the terms, or is your client?
So I think we do a little bit of both.
Okay.
At
For
the end of
sure.
the day, we are the experts.
Yeah.
But we do it in a way where it's comfortable. And again, we look for their guidance too, right? So some clients, we can come on a little bit stronger, because
they
that's
need
what
it.
they need,
They need it.
right? Like
They
that's
need
my
some
personality.
guidance. They need it. Tell me what to do.
Right.
Exactly.
Like if you walked into my basement right now, I'd be like, do what you need to
Right,
do.
right.
Do what you need to do.
Right.
Like, just you do it.
Right. And then,
But then some people are more
and
specific.
some people aren't. They kind of know what they like. And again, Danielle's really good at I hear you. But could I suggest? And then a lot of times like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's a way we approach things. Right.
And once again, going back to our backgrounds, like I think our backgrounds have a lot to do with how we speak to our clients and just understanding the different types of learnings and all of that we can then be able to use our skills to get to the final goal, which is home organization.
Right. And we'll kind of battle it out at the beginning too, because we have different ideas. So we're like,
not
well, what do
in front
you?
of the client,
not in front of the client, but like before we approach them, what do you think? What do I think? And then we come to a common ground.
Yeah,
right?
and that's the beauty of working in partnership is that we can see things through two different lenses, and it's just so much easier that way.
Yeah.
Whereas opposed to making sure that one person gets the final say all the time, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work like that at all. Yeah.
So what's the process like? I want you to organize my kitchen or my playroom. I come to you both. What's the timeline? How does that work?
So we first start with a discovery call, like I mentioned previously, and then we go in for an actual assessment, which literally can be the following day if possible. Yeah, things work really quickly if our schedule permits. And then from there, we talk to them about their budget, because a lot of the times people don't understand that product also needs to be purchased in order to build a system, right? So we always work within the client's budget, and we then product source for them. We do it all. We get the deliveries to our place. We bring everything to the home so they don't have to worry about anything. And then we get in and we install the system. And depending on the space, it can take 2 days, it can take 4 days. It just depends. And a lot of the times people will finish one area and then they'll be like, okay, I'm ready for the next area. Yeah. And then we do that. So it's great. There's add-ons all the time. And we also offer maintenance.
I was just going to say, tell me there's a follow-up, because I can imagine this beautiful, all systems in place. And then a week later, it's gone to the shitter.
That's not what
the
we
organizers
want.
are coming back.
I know. Yeah. So that's not what we want. Our goal is that, it's an investment, and you do it once and it should be easy enough to continue it on.
Yeah.
Right? We don't want it to get to a point where it's so organized again that it's overwhelming and it doesn't function. Right? So it really depends on what the client wants, but our maintenance is more like
a facelift.
A shuffling things. Yeah. It's not so much of, were we even here?
Yeah.
So, our main priority is that we go in once and we do it right. Yeah. That anybody walking through your doors, it doesn't matter how young or old, you're able to put things back. It's that easy.
Yeah.
I would imagine the maintenance phase too would be really important as kids age, right? If you're going into a child's space,
right.
Because their toys change, their interests change, or their accoutrement, the things that they need really drastically changes in their small little lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think though, once it's organized to make those small changes, it doesn't feel overwhelming. I think it becomes overwhelming when there's so much that you don't even know where to start.
Yeah,
so you just don't.
So you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But once things are organized, I think, when you're making those small adjustments, you don't need to call us for those things, right? Because it's already half that battle.
And I think that's why we are so committed to helping the client understand that this is a lifestyle change. It's not just a quick overnight fix.
Right.
And I think that's what separates us from possibly other organizers, that we really just want to make that difference in someone's life, emotionally. Yeah. So it's not just making something, once again, looking Instagram perfect.
Right.
It's about making a difference. Yeah.
So can we talk a bit more about emotion?
Yeah.
I'm so curious.
You attach emotions. I know I do to an item of clothing or something that my kids used to play with. I can't get rid of that. How do you separate the emotions from the objects?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of ways. There's a couple of things that we do with our clients. I'll give an example. We had a client that was going through a separation, and she was really, really attached to this piece of clothing that her partner had once given to her on a very special trip. And for years, she was just like, I can't part ways with it. I can't part ways with it. And then we came in for a refresh and we revisited that dress once again. And we're like, okay, where are we at today with this piece of clothing? And she was ready. Yeah. And it just gives me goosebumps thinking about it because our approach is like we allow them to story tell. So we allow them to tell us why it's important. Where did they get it? And the more that they're doing that, one day they're going to get to a place where, that piece of clothing or whatnot still has meaning, but they don't necessarily physically need it in their lives anymore.
And repurposing things too,
Oh,
right?
yeah, we're all about repurposing.
You don't have to get rid of something, but you need to find a purpose for it.
Yeah.
So whether it's, a piece of furniture and they're moving and, they want that piece of furniture, but they don't necessarily have space for it. Well, you can turn it into something so that you can create a space for it.
We've done that many times.
Or say more. What's a good example?
Yeah.
Of that?
So for example, like a hutch in a dining room, like if someone still wanted to keep that, could you repurpose that hutch in a children's room, a bookshelf perhaps, or something, a dresser. So it's like getting creative with that. Also a huge thing are like gallery walls. So a lot of the times our clients will be like, I'm so sad to like remove all of these photos from this gallery wall because of all the memories. Well, okay, let's talk about it. Are there other pictures now with this new family dynamic that you can put on that gallery wall instead of removing all of the frames? Let's build new memories with that space so it doesn't look empty.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
And just creating places for it. Like if there is an item or a dress or a something, there's memory boxes we can create.
Yes. Yeah,
you can take pictures and then create a memory photo album, right?
Sweet.
Like there's so many things you can do. It's not, okay, let's just get rid of everything, right? Like let's think about this.
Yeah.
You may never be ready to get rid of something, and that's okay too. Like that's not going to break, like it's not going to change the dynamic or the functionality of organizing, right? And the decluttering process is really neat.
So important.
Because oftentimes our clients will be really nervous and, we organize it in a way that it doesn't feel so overwhelming, but at first it is. And then how quickly people start to, okay, I'm done. Get rid of it. Okay, yes.
The new habits they're picking up.
Yes.
Also, I don't know if it's just me, but I derive the same pleasure in buying new stuff as I do in purging my old stuff.
Yeah,
like there's something so cathartic about being like, I'm bringing 3 bags to the, donation center.
bin.
This feels amazing. And then you have space. You feel lighter. So imagine that decluttering, that purging is crucial. I would love for someone to come in and just be like, I'm going to do this on my own. Like, I don't really want to be a part of it because of those emotions. Or it's like, well, I might need that half empty toothpaste container just in case.
You'd be surprised.
But you'd be and which is fine. But once we have that relationship and we collab on that and we work together, how easy it is to get rid of that toothpaste that you thought it wasn't going to be, right? It's just having that conversation. So
and
we
what
have
does
that
that conversation look like?
Yeah.
Like give us not a role play per se, but I would imagine people do need a bit of hand holding through that.
Or a reality check about the item that they're so attached to. Like maybe it's not the grandmother's hutch, but maybe it is a toothpaste.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we just ask questions to help us get a better understanding. So it's like, okay, well, when's the last time you've used this? Okay, let's not use the toothpaste, for example.
It's a bad analogy.
But, like let's just say, a pair of jeans. When's the last time you wore them? Do they make you feel good?
Yeah.
You know,
are you happy when
are you
look at
happy
these
wearing
jeans?
them? Are you looking
It's
at
like some Marie Kondo stuff? Like, does it bring you joy? Like, are you getting to that?
100%.
Exactly.
Though I have to say, I'm
Yes.
super jazzed that she's come out since having her kids. And I'm like, oh my God, I was crazy. I can't believe I made all those people do that.
Yeah, I mean, it is an art, but and I
yeah.
respect it for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going a little bit overboard, but yeah, it's like when you see that item hanging in your closet, is it bringing you happiness? And that's how I look at my closet. Like,
But we also categorize things, right? So we'll put, for example, before we have the client, we go through all of their stuff that we're going to declutter together, and we'll put them in piles. So we'll put all the black jeans together. We'll put all the dresses together. We'll put all the suits together so that they see
the volume
of each, right? Instead of everything kind of being all over the place. So that adds value to it too. And they're like, oh, well, I don't need 55 jogging pants actually.
Don't
right?
you know?
You know,
That's definitely my wardrobe.
or you might, I don't know, but we'll figure it out together,
But
right?
To see it
Yes.
on mass
Right.
is an eye-opening.
And we have not had a client yet that hasn't by the end of it thanked us for the decluttering process.
Yeah,
At
so
the beginning, very nervous, but by the end of it, they're like, I want to do more.
Right.
And also just going back to like the donations, we also take care of all of that too.
Right.
Garbage removal. Like we work with, like we have partners that will work and come and get the garbage pickup or shredding if you know, personal information or donations. So they'll pick up all the donations and then they'll bring them to the donation. So the client doesn't have to do anything.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times I've had a bag of donation clothes. It's like,
And then it just sits
and
there.
it sits
it
there.
sits there, or it's in my car. And I get real about it. Like
Yeah.
it sits in my car because I'm like, maybe I need.
And then you need the trunk space, so you bring it back
and
into the
then you're
house.
shifting around
Yeah.
in the car. I'm like, no, like stop, just give it away. Like it's
Yeah, and it makes people feel better too, right? Knowing that it's going to
Somewhere.
good use,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So that's important. Or they want to give it to a family member.
I was gonna say, there's nothing I love more than hand-me-downs.
Yes,
I love
me too.
that.
The
Me
best.
too.
It's like you feel
Me too.
good about
Even like with the
Yeah.
kids, yes,
And,
but
like-
even my sisters and I will be like, I haven't worn these in whoever.
100%.
Here's a bag. I'm
Yep.
not ready to part with it fully.
Yep.
Could
But it's
you
still
enjoy
going
it
to
for
the
like on
family.
loan,
100%.
maybe? And if you want it back, it hasn't left quite so
Yeah.
far.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's not a
Yeah.
fully
Yeah.
gone item.
We do that
And
with
then
the
by the
sports
time it
equipment
comes
too.
back to you,
I've
you might
never
not
wanted
want
it back.
right?
I've
and
never
that's
wanted
fine.
anything back.
I don't want
That's
that
part of the
anymore.
process,
Yeah.
right? So it's just like decluttering, like she was saying with the, one of our clients with the dress. Wasn't ready to let it go, eventually was, right? So there's a time and place for everything.
Yeah.
Really a lot of like therapeutic aspects to what you do, I would
like
imagine.
letting go of the physical, but also more
Yeah.
importantly, the emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that goes with a lot of life transitions too, because I can imagine you work with people, some who are in a positive place where they're maybe getting a new home or they just want to reorganize their playroom, but then there are others who are going through more difficult times. So I would assume that the emotions are like way more heightened,
Right.
and probably takes a lot longer to detach from those.
And a lot of the times, sometimes like space becomes an issue. So they might be going from their family home to a smaller space and they're not ready for that, change. So
Right.
we are also experts in like space design. So, we will say, okay, you're going into a smaller space. Let's bring the contents from your older home into the new home and only bring things that your space can allow. And a lot of the times we've had to like get creative with like, installing something that they wouldn't normally have in their other home, but like it has to make sense for their new space. So
And we
like,
try to make it exciting, right? Like,
Yeah.
as much as, yes, that is definitely a hard time, but it can also be exciting,
Yeah.
right? So taking away that stress of having to do that too, right? So we see a lot of the happiness that goes into it. So, which makes us, that is my favorite part of what we do,
yeah.
right?
Well, and it's
So-
reaffirming the fact that the work you're doing is so important and that people really do need that kind of help. That they-
Nobody regrets
that they don't even know.
organizing
Yeah.
their home,
No.
and you
And
don't.
a lot of people don't see the value. Like when we say we're professional organizers, a lot of the time people are like, oh, that exists. And we're just like, yeah, it exists. And then we go into detail about what we actually do. And the amount of people that say, oh my gosh, I need that service is incredible. And so it's important to know, like, if you do call us, you're not alone. Like, and there's nothing to be ashamed about. We come from a very non-judgmental approach. We've seen it all. So we're never going to walk into a space and be like, oh, gotta go,
No,
like
that
it's-
makes us more excited because it's like
bigger
we
challenge.
know what
Yeah.
it is to what it's going to be like, and it's not about aesthetically how it's going to look. It's just about how they feel.
Yeah.
So that's the most exciting part because again, we've had clients. There's that shame or that guilt that comes along with that.
Embarrassment.
Embarrassment.
Right, they like collected so much
Right,
stuff. They
right.
didn't organize. And
Right.
they're probably
But
feeling
that
like,
should be exciting. It should be
Right,
an exciting chapter. Like that's, and not everybody wants an organized space, and that's okay too, right? Like you don't need to live an organized life to be at your happiest. It's what works for you. For me, that's what's worked for me. So, you know, we know how much happiness it's brought us. So whoever's looking for that, we're more than willing to help.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're not here saying if your home's not organized, you know,
Yeah,
you can't
there's
be
something
happy.
to be ashamed about.
No,
Yeah.
of course not. You know, my husband at his office, he is so happy and not very organized.
Well, that organized chaos that we were
You know?
talking about,
And
right?
that-
I thrive in
yes,
that. Yeah.
and that drives him and he's fine. And that's great. But, you know, so it's what works for you.
So as you know, we are a divorce podcast.
Yeah.
So a lot of our listenership, they're going through family transitions. They're maybe, as you mentioned, going from a bigger space to two smaller spaces or just a different space or, you know, what have you. How can you mitigate against that level of emotion? Because I feel like that's the next level, right? Like I can be really attached to some jeans that I, you know, had a great moment in. I can't part with them even if they don't fit, but that's like something from the past. This is, I guess, future forward.
Yeah.
How are you supporting clients, or are you, I guess, when they're in a major life transition?
Yeah, we're really trying to shift the focus from what leaving the past behind and now what can we do as professional organizers that will help you move forward into the future. So once again, listening to them. Sometimes we do more listening than we do actual physical work. And I'm sure you guys can understand that. And it's just a matter of that being an ear for them to speak to. Some of these people don't have a support system. Some of them aren't working with a professional expert. So sometimes, I mean, we don't overstep our boundaries ever, but we are very compassionate when it comes to just understanding what we can do to help them move forward to the next stage.
Also what's important is, again, looking at it as, okay, you're going through this. How can we make this exciting for you?
Yeah.
Like moving on to the next chapter and having yourself starting fresh with an organized space. One less thing you have to worry about entering this chapter. How can we make this exciting? You
Finding
know,
the positive in it.
right? 100%.
Yeah.
Finding that positive, right? So moving forward that way and making it as seamless as possible. Listen, they're already going through what they're going through.
Yeah.
You know, how can we make it this process the easiest for you? And you know, if some people have children, you know, making that transition exciting and seamless for them too, right? And again, you don't need to hold on to everything, but you also don't have to get rid of everything. And not everybody is ready, right? Like to let the past be the past.
Right.
The lines get blurred and that's okay, right? Like that, I don't think necessarily you need to leave the past to make it exciting for the future, right? Like, so again, listening to our clients and making that transition seamless. And I think also, you know, with children, when you have some clear spaces and, you know, routines and organization, it makes it easier for them, I would assume, to go from that back and forth, right? It's like, I know it's clear over here on this side and it's clear over here on that side. And, you know, it makes it less maybe overwhelming for them.
That's fair.
You know?
Yeah.
We like really like to get a sense of like their family communication style. So then we've done this before with clients where we set up like communication centers or like command centers. So when the kids come home from school in both houses, like it's a similar setup for them. They have their backpack station, their lunch bag station. So like we kind of try as best as possible, depending on the space, to replicate that. So it's kind of familiar in both homes.
So you might work with, let's say, both moms. Let's say mom and dad are going through a divorce, but they want to keep consistency amongst their homes.
Yeah.
They could hire you to sort of to do that and to create
that
those
is
spaces.
so important.
And again, we
I love
wouldn't,
that.
it's not something that we would recommend. Like it's important, but not every situation's like that.
Sure.
So if that's what they want, it's obviously a beautiful thing, but if that's not their situation, that's okay too. Like it's important for us to create something that's seamless and safe for them where they're at.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's
I think
important.
that's the key, right? Meeting people where they're at, not
Meeting
pushing
people
them past.
100%.
Their limits. And
But it is tricky because sometimes people really need that push, right?
Yeah.
They need
Yeah.
a bit of a kick in the butt.
Yeah.
to get them out of their comfort zone to
100%.
really reach the full potential.
They need permission to like let go of something.
Yeah.
They need somebody else to give them the
Yes.
permission to like, it's okay if you get rid of that. Like,
And we know when we can,
it's-
right? We know when we can. Like we do it in a way where it doesn't feel like that, but next thing you know, they are getting rid of 18 dresses and they're like, "Oh my, what? How? When did that happen?" Right? So it's creating that safe relationship with them
and
right?
understanding that like that, cardboard box, let's say, I mean, we never throw away anything unless we get the consent from the client. But yeah, that cardboard box, let's say, is just a cardboard box to Molly and I, but then to someone else that could mean something.
Right.
You never know.
Right.
So we are very, very mindful of that. And we don't throw away anything. We make like a little pile of things we think,
Suggestion pile.
and then we go through it and we're just
Yeah.
like, okay, suggestion pile.
Yeah.
What are some good tips? I mean, we live in the city. Places are tiny. Let's be honest. You're really paying per square footage. What are some sort of easy 101s that people could do? Some easy tips that maybe someone could take today away from this conversation and say, okay, I can put in this one tiny system. This seems
just
like
a little something to make
just a
them
thank
feel a
you.
little
Yeah.
bit
Yeah.
like they're making some progress.
I would say, I mean, because I live in a condo, so I literally have to utilize every nook and cranny I can. What I've found for myself is that, let's say your pantry, for example, getting bins. Like people don't understand how important product is to maximize capacity. Can you stack things? Can you adjust shelves? Can you get things that will utilize the entire depth of a shelf? So that's where we come in place, because some people don't know the product that's out there, whereas we are very, very familiar. I mean, our Amazon shopping list and wish list is like pages and pages long,
Amazon.
right? Yeah. But it's just it's just getting creative that way, or your closets. Once again, people don't realize that, thicker hangers can really impact the amount of space that your closet has. So we always work with like a thinner, like a slimmer hanger so that you can get more clothes on your rod, right?
That's
So
really
drawer dividers, because you can file fold everything. So we also like have folding techniques that we teach our clients as well.
Ooh, maybe you'll do one for
demo. We do a
for
real demo.
real.
Yeah, we'd be happy to. Yeah, and then we kind of just like,
Wanna see how they fold.
file fold the clothes as opposed to just like stacking. So there's tons of ways, but that's just where we come in and we take measurements and pictures, and then we go back and we create a shopping list and we do it all for you.
Yeah.
Very cool.
But I think that like for sure what you said with baskets are easy to locate, labels, and again, they don't have to be perfect labels, but even if you just get some tape and write on the tape what it is, there you have a labeled basket, and it doesn't have to be expensive, right? Like if you're, you're trying to tackle something on your own and you want it organized, that could feel good too, right? So it's just simple things like that that I think could really help.
I always tell my kids, I'm like, we bring one thing in, we get two out the door.
Yeah, that's a good practice.
That's like the easiest
Start
one for
doing that.
them. Yeah. You always do age appropriate stuff, right? Okay, I gotta know: is anyone changing their seasonal wardrobes? Like, are people moving their summer clothes?
They do
Are
do
they
that.
doing
Yes,
it?
They
yes,
are. They are
Good
yes.
for
doing it.
those people. That is not me.
Yes,
Yeah.
like I'll put my teaching clothes to the back in the summer, right?
Yeah.
And then I'll bring some of my spring wear and summer wear. But I also
I love where it's going already.
I do have a bit of a rolling rack, and I'll do like my favorite outfits
Right.
for like the spring, like especially if I'm on the go. So I'm not wearing the same thing over and over again, because I tend to do that.
I do that as well. Yeah.
I'm like, how many times am I going to wear these shorts and
Because they're there and they're
they're there
clean
and they're
like-
cute,
and you're like, okay.
you know. But I'm like, I
Yeah.
have like 5
Other
more
stuff
skater
is
things.
buried below that you
So,
probably-
yeah. So I'll do like a capsule wardrobe, right? Where like I'll
fancy.
Capsule spring
where I'll just
wardrobe.
like put some of my favorite things out. Now, but going back to like the space, like when you're in a smaller space, making sense of everything, even when you have a bigger home, though, I find that you have a bigger home that you
stuff?
but you should fill every space. Like that isn't true. Like there's lots of drawers.
It's okay to have an empty drawer.
It's okay to have an empty
You can
drawer.
grow into it.
Yes. Don't just fill the space because you have it. You might
Right.
just not need it. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
So I think that's important too, because, oftentimes my mom will come over and be like, this kitchen, why don't you have anything in here? And I'm like, because Mom, I don't need anything in that space. Right.
Right.
So again, it's important to take that into account too. Just because you have the space, you don't necessarily have to fill it either.
It's a really good point. I
It
definitely
is
just fill
really-
everything.
I know. As you're talking, I'm thinking, okay, gotta get rid of this. My mind is racing. I'm going to think of my pantry. Like I've got work to do.
And also tackling one thing at a
At a
time,
time.
like short-term goals. I know that's helped me like in life in general, but like short-term goals, right? Like if you want to tackle the pantry, just do the pantry.
Yeah, that's why we do, like, if someone does want us to come in for an entire home project, we do it in phases. So we always start with the kitchen. It's the heart of the home. It's where the magic happens, cooking, family gatherings, all of that. And sometimes a lot of our clients want that functionality, but they also want a showcase piece with, like, when company comes over, they want to open up their beautiful pantries and they want people to see that they're organized, right?
Yeah.
Then we move into the closets. Like that's our secondary priority most of the time. Playrooms is a huge popular package. Garages.
Garages
yeah.
are great.
Sheds,
Garages are
storage
great.
rooms.
Just a dumping ground,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. And we've had to like install shelving units in
a garage.
And
It looks so nice though when you open someone's garage and they have all their like things are
mounted the
hanging.
bikes,
Yeah, it
the
looks so
helmets.
nice. Yeah.
Nowhere in your home should make you feel
Anxious.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
So if you go
Put
into
in the wrong home.
and so
Nowhere in your home should
if
make
you
you feel
go into a
anxious.
space and it makes you anxious, you need to make a change.
Yeah.
Yeah, or overwhelm. I feel like overwhelm is probably common.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, it's like you walk in.
Where do you
I
start?
don't
And
even
you turn
know where to
around because you're like,
begin.
I just can't today.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I bet a lot of folks, not naming names, it's for sure me. You start a project and then you've pulled everything out. You're like,
right.
I've lost.
Yeah,
steam.
there's
Yes,
a meme
yeah,
on
yeah.
like TikTok
The
about
closet,
that.
you
the
dump
closet.
everything in the front, and
Yeah.
you're like, I can't.
Yeah.
You can't today. I'm leaving
And
and
I
closing the
struggle
door.
with that in my own home sometimes. Like, right, the other day I was talking to Danielle and I'm like, oh, Dan, I have to do my pantry. She's like, or my linen closet. So I don't know, do you want to do it? And I was like,
Yeah.
are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm like, I just, I'm looking at it, and
But if you're
Man.
doing that all day,
I know,
right?
you don't-
Yeah. And you don't want to come home and do more of your job.
100%. I love organizing, but I love more about how it makes people feel,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The
So, when I'm looking at my linen closet, like I am feeling ways, but I really don't know if I want to tackle that today, right? So
Yeah.
like it's normal to feel that way. And we're professional organizers and I feel that way sometimes in my own home. I know I need to do it.
Yeah.
Hopefully she will,
Yeah.
but
She's a good friend.
I also just wanted to point out, like, it's so important to also get like the family involved. So, like, my husband before meeting me, he was not organized at all, and just recently he started to be like, okay, when are we gonna declutter my closet today? And so, like, we do it as a team, and then he gets excitement. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but he's
not going to be happy after this.
But he feels like, good to like then put his own like stuff away, and like it just makes my life easier, and now there's a system in his closet. So, he knows exactly. And that's about getting the whole family involved because oftentimes, one person in the household feels that they have the most strain on keeping things organized. And so we try to make it like more of a family event.
I got to talk about the kids though, because
Yeah.
anytime I've tried to get rid of toys,
Yep.
things
with the
they've
kids
not,
there?
like they've not played with this toy or touched
Yeah.
this stuffy in years, but heaven forbid I take it away from them.
Right.
They see it in the garbage. Like,
It's now their
what's
favorite.
that doing
Yes.
there?
And
Yes.
it's literally happened where my daughter, I've been like trying to get rid of a stuffy, and now she'll only sleep with it for like the next month
you just
because
said
she's
it.
so obsessed with it. So how can we honestly, as parents, try and declutter or purge or get some of this stuff out of our homes
Yeah.
because it is too much, and they've often outgrown it. But the second they see it, they can't live without it.
But you just said
Classic.
something that was so important,
Did
right?
I?
If they see it, they want to play with it. And that's a beautiful thing, right? No matter how old they are.
Right.
There's nothing that brings me more joy than when I see my kids not playing soccer for a second. I love that they play soccer, but going back to their toys.
Yeah.
And they do that when they can see them,
Yeah.
right? So
Right.
I'll shuffle things out,
Yes, I
right?
love
Yes.
that.
So
Yes.
I'll put things in a bin, like I
Yeah.
mentioned before, and it's kind of like, let's not look at it, let's not think about it. And then together we organize the toys that they have. Okay, I say together. Not always they're like so keen to do it,
No,
right? Like at
but-
the end of the day, you can only try so hard, but for the most part, they do enjoy it. My oldest one. And then when they see it, they want to play with their toys. It's like our closets. When we change things around, we want to wear that clothing.
Right.
So then you feel better about keeping it because they're using it.
So it shouldn't be seen as a negative, but rather like a reassessment of priorities of what they're still interested
Yes.
in.
100%.
Like I often try to do the whole, we're going to donate this, some other child is going to enjoy it, especially in and around the holidays. And
Yep.
like we got
Yeah.
to get rid of
Get rid
stuff.
of stuff. You're
to
gonna be
make
getting a
room-
lot of new
to make room for
things.
new
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
You don't really play with that anymore. Oh no,
Yeah.
no, I do.
Yeah.
I do.
They always
And then all of a sudden they want to bring it all up to their room all of a
Right,
sudden.
right,
They've got
right.
bins.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are you bringing all this stuff
Yeah.
up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like the one in, one out that
Yeah.
we were talking
Yeah.
about too, right? So it's like giving them a choice to be like, okay, well, one of these toys is going to be leaving the house today.
Right.
So you can decide, but we do have to do that. And most of the time they're like pretty good at that.
I can imagine that works for adults too.
Yeah.
You have to pick
Yes.
A or B,
Yes.
like, and be a bit cutthroat.
Yeah. And it's really important to understand that we do like sentimental bins. So like if you really have something so personally attached to you, like we create sentimental, like little like archive
course.
bins, right?
I like
that
that.
we label sentimental. You might only go into it once every 5 years and that's okay. But there are things that just people like, a baby's bib or,
Right.
a little tiny shoe or something like that. So,
And you can also circulate your kids' toys too, right? So like I'll have a playroom toys and then I'll have, some things that are organized in their bedrooms for their bedroom toys. And then, you can have your outdoor toys outdoors. You can have, if you have a cottage, I have bins for my car, like bins for them to play with in the car. Whereas, and if I kept them in the house, they would never touch them. Right.
Yeah.
Or, so you can actually create different spaces for those toys. Or I have a ask mom and dad bin, like, right? So like you're not doing arts and crafts unless you ask us.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you could actually make those toys work. But yes, you need to declutter toys. I donate a lot to their school.
Oh, smart.
So I'll donate their toys to their school, which is nice. And then they've seen them and then had a bit of a thing,
That's
bit of a
mine.
thing. Yeah, a bit of a thing, but they moved on. And then
it depends on the age
it just
too,
and
right?
it just
Yeah.
depends. You know your kids, right?
Yeah,
But
that's
you
true.
can definitely find spaces. Their toys don't have to be all in one room.
Right.
And all in one space. They can suit different purposes depending on what it is that they need it for. Or I'll have a restaurant bin.
like
Like
that.
what are we bringing to the restaurant so that you could sit down for 5 minutes instead of 2? So I think just finding spaces.
The one toy that we see often that just accumulates and accumulates is the Lego sets.
Oh yeah.
So we kind of like to say, okay, you build the set, you display it for
Yes.
let's say, a month or so, you take a nice picture with it, you pack it up nicely, maybe donate it, and then you move on to another set. We've seen hundreds of sets in a house
Or
because
some people
they
just display
start them.
them. And they just display
or
them
just
and
like
they
on a
keep them.
bookshelf,
Yeah.
Right? They have a
But
bookshelf
when
and they
I
display
see that there are multiple Lego sets that have been like, there's like half the pieces missing, clearly you're not going to build this again. So it's once again like identifying that is the problem and then, moving on and getting rid of it.
I know you're not therapists, but like there is
Definitely not.
there is this real emotional attachment to our stuff. As a society, we love our stuff. Like there's an entire storage industry.
Yeah.
So that when we maximize the capacity of our homes, we then get a storage container and fill that. Are we giving too much power to our stuff? Is there too much like weight in the accumulation? Is it just society as a whole? We just keep, we're like such a, consumer-based world that we can't separate ourselves from the stuff. And more importantly, how do we teach our kids that they don't have
It's
this
so
insane
attached
attachment to
things.
stuff?
I think there's some pride and value that comes into, things that they have, right? And taking care of them. And also not everything should be so disposable, right? Like, oh, we can just buy another one or we can
Yes.
just buy
Right.
another
Yes.
one, right?
Yes.
Like
I
that's
hate
also
that.
important too.
Yeah.
But I think like, for example, you know, we had a client who immigrated to Canada and, you know, she had a lot of stuff and it was really important to her because she came from a country that she wasn't allowed to have anything, right? So for her, it's not, you know, I have this addiction to buying things and I can't let it go. It's for the first time in my life, I can own something, right? So that means something different to me. So again, everybody's story is so different. But, you know, just because that happened also doesn't mean that you need to keep everything.
Right.
But again, it's like navigating that, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, that is important to you. And I could, you know, I understand that. That's a big story for you. And like, that's important. How can we keep the things that hold more value and happiness to us, right?
So working with people's like past traumas too that impact how they treat things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it really sounds like you guys just take the time to sit and listen.
No, we do.
To
We
people.
do.
So nice.
That's
and so
like
refreshing.
50% of, you know, what we do. And that's why like we just are, I mean, even in our friendship, we're great listeners to each other. So we bring that into our professional world and it really makes a difference versus us just coming in, doing the job and like, see you later. And then there's like a follow-up. Like we always want to just follow up with our clients and make sure that they're happy. One of our commitments is like open communication. Like it's written in our proposal. So like, this is what we expect from our client and this is what the client can expect from us. And open communication is like number one. So if they're unhappy or, you know, stressed or anything like that throughout the process, like we are here to like listen and we'll make the change like right away. Yeah.
And we come from like, you know, the way we were raised was very similar, but the way we live our adult life is very different. So we, you know, we're not two of the same coming into listening to the same story.
Two very different perspectives.
Exactly.
Two different perspectives, you know, and again, like there's a lot of times that we'll have to talk through things to see, you know, where we're at to make sure that we're meeting the client where they need to be, right? So, and I think that's
Because we ultimately we have the same goal. We want our clients to be happy. So it's like we could have different ways to get there, but that's
what
our
makes
goal
it
and that's the
special.
most important.
Yeah.
Has there ever been an instance where you've walked into someone's home and just thought, oh, I absolutely cannot help you?
Yeah. Yes. Not necessarily walking into a home because we, like I said, we do the discovery call and then we ask for photos of the space.
Oh, smart.
But yes, there has been a situation. And with that, we do have partners that we can refer, you know, chronic hoarding or something that is a little bit above our scope. And they are happy and we've connected them with people that can really make a difference in their lives.
Yeah. I mean, hoarding is definitely like a mental health concern.
Yes.
It's not just your everyday, I overshopped.
No.
And I love
there's
everything on
there's
TV.
different
Yeah.
levels of disorganization. Yeah.
And again, we don't want to just do anything and everything. We want to focus
Specialize what we are.
So what would you say
experts
is your
in.
specialty, your sort of niche?
Yeah. Well, assisted declutter for sure. Home organization. We also offer like packing services for people that are moving, downsizing. So yeah, I think those three things, home organization, declutter, and packing and
I
unpacking.
find moving is the best time to declutter.
Yeah.
Oh,
it is important.
Yeah. Because like, why are you moving, you know, let's just say junk from one house to the next. It is so important. And once again, people don't realize until we're physically in this space and they see the amount of garbage bags that are leaving their house to be like, how could I have done this without the two of you?
Why am I bringing the junk?
Yeah.
to the
And
house?
sometimes people are just strapped for time, right? So it's like, I want to have these boxes beautifully organized so when I get into my new house, it's easy. But that's not ideal for everybody, right? So they're like throwing things in the box, right?
And it's overwhelming to open up those boxes on the other. I've moved a few times and like,
how many times have you not opened boxes?
oh, I still have some.
Yes,
Or years later, they're still,
exactly.
they're still in the garage. So I'm just like, no, just no.
Yeah.
But yeah, like to have someone to like organize it on one end so that when you get to the other side of the move, it's like, okay, I know what I have and I know where to put it.
These are the things I'm keeping.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's a real fresh start.
Totally.
Yeah.
And again, these things don't come so easy to people. We obviously understand that. And that's why we offer the services that we do, right?
And how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah. So we are on Instagram. Our handle is perfectly2_put. And we're at perfectlyputorganizing.com, and all of our information is on our website.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We
So
love it.
thank
It's
you
perfect
so
time.
much.
Like it's
Thank you so
spring.
much.
People are
Spring
spring
is coming.
decluttering, fresh starts, and it's wonderful.
This
Thank
is
you.
our busy time. So
I can imagine.
Yeah. It's a
Excellent.
good time to get organized.
Well, thank you for sharing all of your
Yeah.
wealth
Thank you
of
so much
knowledge.
for having
Thanks
us.
for having
It's
us.
great.
You've been lovely. Thank you.
Inspired me to go and do some decluttering myself, right? I'm so
Decluttering.
inspired.
No, we're just going to hire them instead.
I know, finally, right? I'm gonna, yeah, exactly. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver, produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it, and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.